Possibilities are all around us. Everywhere we look, we see opportunity in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world that we call home. Like transforming an old bus to feed hungry children, or providing life-saving equipment to those who need it most. From fighting disease to rebuilding schools, together we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved today at rotary.org/action.
Good evening. My name is Carl Michelle. I'm the president-elect of the Rotary Club of Alamo Ranch, and I would like to welcome all of you to our final evening of our online health and wellness seminar. We are discussing the topic of healthy living and disease prevention, and we are very pleased to have some honored guests with us this evening. And I'd like to just take a moment to introduce them. First, we have Alicia Connor, and she's a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and chef. She provides nutrition counseling and a one-on-one to help clients lose and maintain weight loss, as well as prevent and manage type 2 diabetes. With her passion for a healthy lifestyle, she supports clients to build habits, simplify meal planning, and create an actionable plan to meet their health goals. Alicia is a creator of Quick and Delish by Alicia Connor, a meal planning and cooking video series on YouTube. Next, we have Dr. Firas Kadou. Dr. Kadou is a neurologist and a neuroinventist. He specializes in acute care and emergency neurology with expertise in neurotrauma, including traumatic brain injury, or TBI, and spinal cord injuries. He moved recently to San Antonio from New Haven, Connecticut, where he served on the faculty ranks at Yale University Department of Neurology. Dr. Kadou is passionate about advancing the science of neurology and has been at the frontier of many clinical trials to study and treat different neurological illnesses, including stroke and head bleeds. Next, we have Dr. Kike Aduba. Dr. Aduba is a functional medicine physician, infectious disease preventionist, and health coach. She helps people with chronic complex diseases slow down and reverse the progression of their symptoms using holistic lifestyle and dietary interventions, so they can attain good health without dependence on lifelong use of prescription medications. Having developed her own strategies for effective medication-free chronic disease management. Dr. Kike creates wellness programs for medical practices and corporate organizations through her newly launched nutrition and lifestyle protocol, NutriShift. Finally, we have Dr. Yvette McQueen. Dr. McQueen is a global physician on a mission to educate about health, travel wellness, and disease prevention. She is an emergency medicine physician and travel doctor, working as a physician across the United States and the Caribbean. Dr. McQueen also serves as a travel group physician, ensuring healthy and safe travels of the clients before and during their international trips. Dr. McQueen is also a best-selling author, speaker, blogger, consultant, CPR and first aid instructor, wilderness emergency care training, and international teacher for the American Heart Association. She has traveled to over 40 countries for exploring, organizes medical missions to Africa, hospital training and teaching in Rwanda and Tanzania, and participates in international church missions. She also provides wellness lifestyle coaching, wellness retreats, and is a board of directors member of the Wellness Tourism Association. Well, we are very thankful to have all of you here with us tonight. And if we can start with Alicia, if you could just share a little bit about why you got into this field and your thoughts on good ways to have disease prevention.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for being here. I'm excited. Sorry, there was a little echo. I had to let it go. So my first career was as a chef, and I just really enjoyed cooking, and that's why I got into the field. And then later on, just a few years ago, I realized the real reason I got into cooking was because I wanted to have control over what I ate. And this made me more comfortable. And so I truly think that the more we have control over our life, the more comfortable we are, and then we can live the life of our dreams, basically. And so those are the two main reasons I liked cooking and putting food together so it tastes great. And then the control aspect was really huge for me. And I only realized that a couple of years ago. And then later on in life, I went back to school to become a dietitian to put the pieces together between, knowing how to cook is one thing, but knowing how to eat nutritionally is a total other chapter, kind of like weight loss, and then following through with maintaining the weight loss, or following a certain diet to make sure you're managing blood sugars. And so knowing how to cook is one skill that's very important, but eating in a healthy way is just profoundly helpful. And so I really, really wanted to learn how to help people cook healthy, because I know from my experience that it's easy. And I know between time management and our busy lives, it can feel like a challenge. But I really think that it's important to break down the steps of meal planning to make it a doable task, that it's not such a big deal, because every day is a big deal. Like we complete so many tasks and make so many decisions. And so I like to encourage, and I'm super passionate about behavior change, breaking down small steps to results that are doable and reasonable. And so, because we do too much in one day and we ask a lot of ourselves. And so breaking down, eating healthy and exercise and, stress management in a simple way that's doable can be extremely helpful in a day-to-day way.
Very true. And I know that the type 2 diabetes is very prevalent in San Antonio. And a lot of that has to do, or a lot of that is related to the way that we all live, and the choices that we make on a daily basis, how they build up. Dr. Kadu, can you share a little bit about, as a neurologist, you study the brain. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into the field and what interests you, but then if you could share with our audience, just what are some of the effects that some of these health conditions can present for our minds?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity and for having me and having us here and being able to contribute and share our thoughts and opinions. I too am an internist and a neurologist, and then became specialized in neuro ICU, acute brain injury and spinal cord injury. What got me into this field is I believe that everybody deserves to live a full, productive, and fulfilling life, and so that brain injury is as a life-altering event. Most of our patients who have brain injury, whether it's from traumatic brain injury or stroke or any form of injury, even our veterans or active duty members, it takes them out of the not only of the workforce, but also being able to achieve what they have always wanted and dreamed to achieve, or even enjoy the good meals that Alicia cooks, and that's something that I've seen so prevalent in our community and so impactful, those disease entities, and more specifically brain injury and spinal cord injury, and that's what got me in the field. This injuries, seen them happening across all age groups, from our youngest to our whether texting and having motorcycle accidents or car accidents, and becoming their life is altered in many ways, or older patients who are waking up, going to the bathroom and having a fall, and having a head injury after and becoming significantly disabled as a result of that, and in their later years of life. And given how prevalent and how impactful on all age groups, and there's lots can be done to ameliorate and to treat and potentially prevent. That's what got me into this field. Part of why I moved from Yale University in New Haven to San Antonio is my passion for traumatic brain injury, and especially being here in the military city, and being able to contribute to our active duty members and veterans. That was part of why I moved here to San Antonio. In terms of what we can do about preventing those injuries, or decreasing the prevalence of through education about healthy lifestyle, whether through diet and exercise, or picking up certain good habits, not texting while driving, or eating better diet, and to decrease the risk of stroke, and through management of what we call risk factors, whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure, taking medications, and or through treatment of our patients who are already affected with traumatic brain injury, concussions, and with the impact of that, and through education, and through also yeah, I see Jessica here is commenting that so many of our patients of our veterans and active duty do have traumatic brain injury and concussions, and there are lots of things can be done about this, and from as I said, health prevention, wearing a helmet, if you're driving a bicycle, motorcycle, or what we do in my line of work in the intensive care unit, to achieve maximum, or to potentially achieve maximum potential recovery for those for our patients who are affected by this disease.
Well, welcome to Texas. I know you're approaching your first summer here from Connecticut, so good luck.
Thank you.
I think we may have lost him.
Yeah, I think probably we have.
Next up, we'll move to Dr. Aduba. If you want to answer the same question, what kind of got you into the field, and a little bit about how it can, how your background can support.
Sure. So what I do is functional medicine, and for me, it was a personal journey that led me to what I do. I'm trained in public health and infectious disease control, and during my work, I got a few years ago, I got diagnosed with autoimmunity, and I was also diagnosed with idiopathic urticaria and angioedema, which means your body itches a lot and your face swells, your body swells. But then when they say idiopathic, it means there is no reason for it. It's peculiar to you. And for me, I was given no options but to live on a cocktail of drugs every single day. But the unfortunate thing was the drugs made me less itchy and my body wouldn't swell up, but I was very tired all the time. I couldn't go through my day. And so a question that always weighed on my heart was, why am I going through this? No member of my family up to 3 generations ahead never experienced any form of autoimmunity. This was strange to me, and ironically, of a family of 7, I'm the only one who lives in the United States. So I always felt like there was something I'm exposed to, or something is responsible for this. So I started looking for answers. All the doctors I went to said they don't know why I'm going through what I'm going through. There was just no answers, and the only option I had was just to live on pills, and my life was just miserable. So I continually tried to dig, and I found out that some of my symptoms, or many of my symptoms, were related to food. I began to identify triggers in my diet, and not only food. I realized that there is a huge component, stress component to my illness as well. Whenever I went through any form of emotional distress or mental stress, my symptoms got worse. There was a time that I would wake up not knowing what I would look like because my body would just swell up. But there was a pattern. Every time I ate a certain way, like where maybe there was a high sugar, there was a high amount of sugar in my food, I would have so much inflammation. So all of that put together made me realize that I needed to change my lifestyle. I needed to change my diet in order to recover. But the irony was, no doctor told me. I went through a gastroenterologist, I went through an allergist, a primary care physician, and because of the amount of the heavy load of work they had, they couldn't take the time to really explain things to me. And even I, as a physician, was never taught in college, the impact of nutrition. I mean, we were told a few things, a surface level amount of information was given to us on how to manage lifestyle and diet when it comes to disease prevention and management. So I found functional medicine as the model that actually put things together for me in a way that really helped me identify the root causes of my problems and also be able to address them, with minimal side effects. And so I got trained in functional medicine and just decided I was going to start helping people. So a lot of the times I've met people who I'll give you an example. There was this mom who had a 4-year-old in daycare. The child was diagnosed with ADHD, right? And she was told that this boy, has to be on pills to be able to calm down because he was so disruptive. He wouldn't sleep through the night and he had such anger fits. And so the mom was worried, but she noticed that this kid on weekends he's fine because she just felt like maybe it was related to some foods he was eating. She also did research. So on her own, she would take out dairy and gluten from his diet, and he would be fine for the most part. But then the daycare wouldn't stop feeding him cookies and pastries. And so because of that, there was a conflict between when he's home and in school. And so what mommy was doing wasn't working because school wouldn't cooperate. And so they said, unless you come with a doctor's note before we would change anything in our diet for your child. And so she went to her pediatrician, the child's pediatrician, and the pediatrician ran, some basic tests and said, oh, he's not allergic to dairy or gluten. And so, she wouldn't give her the note. And with that, the mom was very, very distressed. She was like, I know my child doesn't just have ADHD, there's more to this. Long story cut short, she came across me online, and then we did, like a food inflammation test, and this kid's numbers were off the roof. And so with that, we took out dairy. He was very, very sensitive to dairy, not allergic, but sensitive. And so with the sensitivities identified and eliminated, this boy was almost normal, right? They literally couldn't see signs of ADHD after a while. And with that, with stories like that, it just gives me a high level of compassion for people who keep seeking answers and they don't get the answers they need because we don't look further enough. And so my passion is to help, physicians. So I do a lot of health coaching, and I help physicians also get health coaches to help them sit down with patients and actually ask questions and drill down on their root causes and help them identify areas in their lifestyle and diet that may be contributing to their chronic symptoms. That way, the doctors can provide an integrative care and a holistic care for patients in such a way that all the areas of their life, even including their spirituality and their culture and the things they practice at home, everything is put into consideration when you're managing this patient such that when they leave the doctor's office, they feel like they've been heard and they've been well taken care of. What I always tell people is that, good medicine is a patient doctor partnership. It's not a doctor dictatorship, where the doctor dictates everything the patient does and everything the patient has based on the clinical impression. But it's the patient who really, drives the direction of their healthcare. So that's pretty much what functional medicine is for me. So from my own personal story to stories of people I've been able to help, I believe that it's such a powerful way to, help people recover from chronic complex symptoms without, being sentenced to a lifelong use of medications.
Well, thank you, and sorry to disappear on you a second ago. I don't know what happened. But can you talk a little bit about how we've seen the power of public health in the past year with the pandemic? We've seen
Right.
tens of millions.
I think Carl's having some internet issues there, so maybe he wants me to play moderator. I'm Xavier Tosin. Let me grab a few questions and make them handy for you. But I think with the lines that Carl was going on along with is we've seen initiatives with COVID-19, but I think here's Carl. There you go, Carl. Go ahead.
Well, just as I was saying, that I'm sorry for stepping out. Can you talk about how the power of public health? I mean, since you do have that's one of your areas of expertise. That what we've seen and what we should expect more from public health in the future.
I think public health has become a vital need now. Before, it tend to take a back seat in healthcare because, it's more of public health is not regulatory in that sense. It's just, for the common good of everyone. But I think people are now beginning to see that public health is very, very vital to the way healthcare is being, done. And so I think in the future, we would see people doing public health for themselves, right? I mean, already, if you go into a store and you see a mom with little children and there's someone next to her family not putting their mask up their face, she goes, "Ma'am, please put your mask over your face." I've seen people do that quite a lot, I've seen people telling children, that they're not their children, but they're telling kids, "Wash your hands. Did you put sanitizer on your hands?" Public health has now become everybody's business, in short. So I think public health is going to be not just from the government. I believe the future of public health is going to be in the hands of the common man, everybody. It's in the hands of everybody walking on the street. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. And
Sure.
I'm glad I didn't disappear again. Well, moving on to Dr. McQueen, can you just share a little bit about your story and how you got involved in it in healthcare?
Yes, thank you once again for allowing me to be here. So I am Yvette McQueen, MD. I'm an emergency physician for 20 years. This is my 20th year practicing medicine. And as some people may know that in the last few years with emergency medicine has actually become a primary care area when people come to the emergency department because they don't have primary care physicians or they can't take off of work and see a physician. So I actually um, have been the person to diagnose people with hypertension and diabetes in the emergency department when before it was all left to the primary care physician. So my thing is, everyone thinks you see a patient 15 minutes and you leave, but if I'm diagnosed with somebody with a new disease, I like to sit down and talk to them. We give them a discharge sheet, but I try to let them know other things. And I always include everything, like you said, that it's a total person. It's not just, medicine. It's not just your body, but it's also your mind, your spirit, your soul, your family, and your lifestyle. And I found that out myself by, um, 20 years, nighttime doctor. We're the one biggest at risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with hypertension on my annual visit. So everyone should definitely have an annual visit. I was having an annual eye visit, and then pre-diabetes. And I was like, what? No, not me. I'm a doctor. I know what I'm doing. And at that same month, my mom had a stroke. So I decided at that time, this is not going to get me. These diseases are not going to get me. I know better. And I changed my lifestyle. I actually paid attention to what I was doing. I wrote things down. I kept a monthly diet diary. So I actually knew what was going in this mouth when I was surprised, like, oh, I didn't realize I did that. So I actually did like what I call lifestyle modifications. And I say wellness is a lifestyle. So, and it takes 21 days to form a habit. If things can trigger you to change, to do bad habits, things can trigger you to do good habits. I changed it around as far as the hypertension was under control. I was no longer pre-diabetic. And so what I did was take those things that I did, my lifestyle modifications, and I said, this is what I need to start teaching people. And I formed a course. I formed a wellness, lifestyle, and stress management. I realized somebody put a comment in about stress management, because stress plays a lot in your life. Stress increases that cortisol level. Stress decreases your sleep pattern, which also puts you at risk for disease. And just several things. It increases actually heart disease. So I actually started this course with my church, and I taught this to several ladies actually, and a couple men at my church, and where we saw some good results, and I made it into a on-demand course for lifestyle modification and stress management.
Oh, wow. Wow. And yeah, I can definitely attest. I mean, we all had a bit of a disruption about 15 months ago in how we were accustomed to doing things for all of our lives. And it's been very easy to fall into bad habits, to seek out food for comfort, just to get that feeling of, everything's going to be okay. And it is very easy, to develop those habits, especially the bad ones, and to end up in some ways being controlled by them, and finding yourself where you have hypertension or hyperglycemia, especially when when food often becomes just an answer to things. Alicia, can you share a little bit about what are some of the things that most of us miss when we're thinking about what we put into our bodies?
In terms of what you miss, I think the extras, I think this is a really good question. So the extras, and everybody's definition of an extra is different, because some people are, how they approach alcohol, or just like the cheese, the nuts, the higher calorie items that just add up, so if you add cheese and nuts to a salad, and then you have, bread and maybe something fried or something, then those are extras. And so how you approach the extras in life. And I think it's important to think that we can live like a full life, like the sundae with the cherry on top, but without having the sundae literally every day. So I think eating up life, like enjoying life in a way that is helpful, that's the main thing. And I think a lot of times something that we miss culturally is we micro focus. Like blueberries, like a lot of my clients are like, yeah, I have blueberries for breakfast. I have blueberries for breakfast, because I think at some point, maybe the Blueberry Association was pushing blueberries about, they have a lot of antioxidants, but like all fruits and vegetables have antioxidants in them. And so there's an emphasis on focusing on one thing when we hear about the healthful benefits of it. And so I recommend stepping back and looking at the big picture frequently, like monthly, formally think about and assess what's going on. How are things, where is your healthy lifestyle right now, and where can you improve? And it's not about bad and good. It's about, because those thought processes increase our emotions. And so then you're, oh, this week I was bad. And then you're, oh, I was good, so I get to have the extra. And it's just an emotional roller coaster. So I think wherever you can make decisions ahead of time, like pre-tracking your food if you're keeping a food diary for whatever reason, or meal planning ahead of time, any way that you can make decisions ahead of time for the weekend, because we know ahead of time if we have a busy week, right? And so the busier you are, the more planning needs to happen. And the healthier eating needs to happen when you're busy, because then you'll feel awesome to be able to do what you need to do. Because if you're not able to, then you're like, oh, I'm just going to pick up some stuff on the way home for dinner. And that's not quite, that doesn't hit the spot for like nutrition. Then you'll just like build up that emotion, and, guilt doesn't help anybody. And just feeling bad about anything is just not helpful. And so the planning ahead, when you're going to have a busy time, like vacations can be challenging. And so planning ahead is just like, if you remember anything from this talk, and I think you'll remember a lot, there'll be a lot of golden nuggets, in this talk. But if you remember anything, planning ahead will save you a lot of time and hassle and stress.
Absolutely. Well, we all live lives that seem to be fast, and we seem to jump from one thing to another, and everything is designed around it being convenient to us, and it feeds right into it. And of course, the foods that are the easiest to get are typically the ones that are the not as healthy. I won't say the worst, but probably the worst for it. So thank you for that, for your response. Dr. Kadu, can you talk a little bit about how the mind can maybe guide us, or how food or nutrition can almost play tricks on our minds, and it creates a bit of a cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's needless to say that eating disorders are very prevalent in our community and in the globe, actually, and lead to while they not only lead to obesity, but their impact on the brain is so severe that we do not realize until we connect the dots. I'll give an example. This month. The month of May was the Stroke Awareness Month, and one common cause for stroke is atrial fibrillation, which is abnormal heart rhythm. That's if any of us have sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is directly affects the risk, or substantially increases the risk for us to have atrial fibrillation. And one cause of sleep apnea is obesity. By the way, you don't have to be obese to have a sleep apnea, but if someone is overweight or obese, they are much higher chances. Not only affects your ability to have a good sleep, refreshing sleep, but affects also your ability to have a controlled blood pressure, and ability to fight your diabetes, ability to have a healthy, steady routine of diet. And also it leads to sleep apnea substantially increases your chances of having atrial fibrillation. Sadly, we see it on the other. We detect it on the other end of the course of that disease, as Dr. McQueen say that she often diagnoses diabetes and hypertension in the ED. We see our patients who come with a stroke. We find out whether ischemic stroke or brain bleed, hemorrhagic stroke. We find out that they have a sleep apnea, undiagnosed and treated, that has led to atrial fibrillation, caused them to have the stroke. Or even without atrial fibrillation, we realize that they're unable to control their diabetes or the high blood pressure because they have sleep apnea. That's which could be the direct result of their obesity. It's almost like a vicious cycle. Our brain and in the healthy state of our brain, and by healthy I mean not impacted by an acute injury such as a stroke or traumatic brain injury, we is very much attuned to habit forming, and that takes obviously discipline and will, and whether it regards to a diet or exercise or and if you train your brain to run 5 miles a day, that habit in your mind, aside from the physical ability to do it, moving your muscles or moving yourself, running fast or low speed, that habit itself, it could become a trigger to perform that task. And so it's kind of in the healthy state of it and in the injured state of our brain is very much linked to our lifestyle and linked to our whether the habits that we form or the end result of something like obesity and sleep apnea. We're having a question here, and I think Whitney posted a question, and
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask it. Okay. Put on my readers for a second. When we talk about genetics or hereditary diseases, how do we know which diseases are preventable versus congenital? And aneurysms run in my family, but is this something people are born with, or is more lifestyle like HTN? It seems like it's directed to you, Dr. Kadu, perhaps.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for asking this very important question. This kind of hits on the point of what we call modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Risk factors that we are born with, such as aneurysms. There are many or several genes that have been identified as genes for developing aneurysms, such as there is a gene that you form cysts in the kidneys with. It's called polycystic kidney disease. Those patients also have brain aneurysms. They are very prone to have brain aneurysms. To name one of the many genes that could potentially cause brain aneurysms and could potentially be passed to our offspring and our children and grandchildren. However, there's a modifiable risk factor. For example, patients who smoke, patients who have uncontrolled high blood pressure, they are at a very high risk, substantially high risk compared to the ones who do not, for that aneurysm to rupture. And it's interesting that you ask about aneurysms, because many patients live a full life without knowing that they have aneurysm, and only when we do an autopsy we find out that for a different reason we know that they have aneurysms. So that's just to highlight, as much as it's yes, we are prone with non-modified, we are born with non there are lots of things we can do to modify the risk of what we were born with to cause an issue or not cause an issue. There are many. There is always ongoing research on what's the best strategy to detect those non-modifiable or even modifiable. Do we get screened at a certain age? We know, like as Dr. McQueen said, the annual checks, the annual well visits. That's an important appointment in your year, probably as important as, or take it as important as the holidays that you church, about checking with your physician. And there are certain guidelines our community had developed after the age of, as a matter of fact, if just The U.S. task force just came out with the new recommendations to start screening for colon cancer at the age of 45 instead of age of 50. We all know if we don't have family history, we'll start getting colon cancer screening at the age of 50. Now it's 45. So those guidelines, those recommendations are broad, but also flexible, dynamic, always changing. To check your eyes for glaucoma after the age of 50, to check your thyroid after the age of 50. Those are common guidelines and broadly and could be specified or fine-tuned for the individual person. But there are also, you have the power to change other things that are modifiable by following a healthier lifestyle. Uh,
Very good, very good. Thank you, Dr. Kadu. Dr.
absolutely.
McQueen, in your travels, can you talk a little bit about? Is there a tremendous difference in internal medical care or primary care in other countries that you've seen versus what we see here?
Oh, yes, definitely. So, the United States, we're fortunate, what we call first world care. Of course, there's other first world countries that have also just as good care as United States, and like in Europe, Australia, Thailand, those first world countries. When I've traveled to other places, which we call developing countries, and some people say third world, particularly with public health. So when people talk about public health, they always think about the third world countries or the developing countries, or how much they need something different. So that's just interesting that the United States has now started to depend on public health a lot more from the past year. So what I've really noticed is that people care about their health care a lot more because they don't have access to it. And that's the whole thing about having good care is access. People don't have access. So when I've gone and done missions, my church from Florida, we have a missionary established in Malawi, East Africa. I actually hold a medical license in Malawi. We go there every 2 years, and we work with the the doctors and nurses that are there. Of course, we bring the supplies for them. But people, when they know we're coming, they will come just to see the American doctor, because we actually able to give them 3 to 4 months supply of medicine for free, which they are more appreciative, very appreciative. One thing I've noticed too with hospitals, and it was interesting with the overrun of the hospitals last year during the pandemic, hospitals in other countries, as far as supplies and food, a lot of time the family has to provide that. So we take a lot of things for granted here in the United States. We expect to have that 3 meal from the cafeteria or have the fuzzy socks. Where I've been places where we have to send the family and say, go pay $2 at the pharmacy down the street and bring back bandages so we can bandage you up. So
Mm.
healthcare is different, and they're a little bit more appreciative because they don't have access to it.
Okay, thank you, uh, I do want to hear Dr. Aduba. We talked a little bit about public health in the context of the past 15 months and how that's changed. How, and if I can go back to you on that, but from a different angle and ask you how it's impacted the practice of medicine and what you've seen working with physicians that are in the practice.
Oh, absolutely. I think now it's top of mind. Public health is now top of mind with a lot of physicians, right? Clinical care is very different from public health. And so many physicians are recognizing the significance of working with public health authorities in making sure that the patients, before they get to the front door, before they get to the ED, they've done certain things on their own to maintain, the integrity of public health before they end up in the doctor's office. And so there was a time before the pandemic, actually, I was doing something called syndromic surveillance, which is pretty much tracking the events of like influenza like illnesses in the emergency room. And so when we look at patterns through queries, we begin to see if there's going to be an outbreak of a specific illness like the flu. Maybe there's an unusual pattern during a season that's not supposed to be flu season. And so with that, we're kind of seeing how public health officials and physicians and clinicians can actually work together and talk. So it's like we're trying to create more interoperability and also data sharing in such a way that before, so for example, a patient comes into an emergency room and then is discharged and then goes to their primary care physician on something similar or related to what they went to the ER for. But then the doctor in the ER, the information they have is not completely available to the doctor, to the primary care physician, because sometimes the EHR systems do not talk to each other. So those are the things that public health authorities have had to do, to manage to help everybody talk together and play nice, regardless of our specialty. And so I think that's part of why there was the Meaningful Use Act to make sure that data is, standardized and there is interoperability. So I think, putting that in context of the past 1 year and the events that have happened, I really think that physicians, clinicians now, in practice have put public health top of mind. I think if we were to if meaningful use was going to be a new thing, physicians are going to jump at it much quicker now than they did before. I'm sure like Dr. Vet is going to agree, right? And so it's changed the way we see healthcare right now. And I truly believe that the recent events, in the world as a whole has opened up our minds to be more creative and innovative in the way we address healthcare. I'm sure you would all agree with me that we currently exist in a sick care model right now. But the world is moving away from that, right? Dr. Padu, Dr. McQueen, everybody on the panel, and also Alicia, you've already seen how powerful lifestyle and wellness is, regardless of the health condition. It doesn't matter. When you're in the ER seeing a patient, you understand the component that the lifestyle choices has to play in the fact that they're in front of you right now. Or that patient that ends up on Dr. Cuddle's operating table, because he had a stroke that wasn't managed, because of hypertension that wasn't managed. And so you still have to put in that lifestyle component, when you're addressing that patient. And I think disease prevention, lifestyle wellness, and diet, everything, put together is a matter of public health. So I think we all are practicing some form of public health in our own right. But I think now it's the ability to make it more um, to think of it as a well-rounded way of doing healthcare, such that we're coming from a proactive uh, point of view rather than a reactive point of view, where we're preventing and catching things before they happen. I'm sure with the pandemic, we all agree that we probably would have saved many more lives if we were proactive. And so we were more reactive. But I'll say this: the way the vaccines showed up so fast, I think that we can say is a proactive way, we have dealt with, the pandemic, and public health has made that possible with the help of scientists, researchers, and tech companies, and biotechnology companies and pharmaceutical companies who worked quickly and fast with public health authorities, right, in making that happen. And the way we're putting out information for people to go get vaccinated. I don't know if you all listened to the president a few days ago, how he's giving incentives to people for taking action. There's a lot of doctors. I'm in a medical, in a doctor collective where we all talk about the vaccine and trying to debunk misinformation and helping people understand the benefits and the costs. So it's a lot of things, but at the same time, it's public health, and we're all doing it together. The grocery stores, the retailers, everybody's doing public health. Everywhere you go, restaurants are doing public health. And I think public health has become very important. I hope it stays that way. I know everybody's groping to get back to normal, but I hope public health remains normal to everyone. I hope people understand still that there are super bugs, there are bugs out there, and we need to maintain uh, hygiene regardless of what condition or situation we find ourselves in, to manage not only infectious diseases but chronic diseases as well, as it affects our lives and well-being.
Carl, I also want to say with public health, prior to the pandemic, and hopefully it continue on, that how public health has really affected prevention and management of disease has been with the food deserts. That I know that a lot of Department of Health in a lot of the cities and states have been working with the food deserts because, once again, and Alicia, all of us know what she said: lifestyle, nutrition. So if we provide people, particularly those zip codes that was not getting adequate food or adequate nutritional food, we can prevent the diabetes in the young. We can prevent the childhood obesity. We can prevent the hypertension, and that's a public health issue there. So when you say public health, a lot of people do think, of course, with the pandemic, we think infectious, but it can affect across the board, and definitely addressing the food deserts for prevention and management of these chronic diseases.
And so true. And I know from I spent 13 years living in New Orleans. So I moved there just a year after Hurricane Katrina, and there were parts of town that had no grocery stores. There were corner convenience stores, and we all know what type of food is there. We all know who it's specifically marketed to, and exactly high profit margin. It's about the profits, and it's nice to see that members of our community, individuals, are creating community gardens in underserved parts of town and trying to bring access. So it does really. And I saw one of the comments earlier that from our audience, that it's amazing how the connection between what we eat, and it's garbage in, garbage out. It's if we're not putting in good stuff into our healthy things into our body, then what other result can we truly expect, unless we have some hyper resilient genes or something like that? But that's only in Marvel movies, as far as I know. Now we're getting down to the last about 8 minutes, and I thought if we could just go around one last time, and we know we live in a fast-paced world. We know that we have to make choices quickly. We're always on the go. And Alicia, I know you talked a little bit about planning, and what are some ways that people can sometimes it's hard to get started. What are some simple steps that people can take starting today or tomorrow morning to kind of just build something and build something they can be successful with?
Shall I start with that one? So
yes.
I love how you just said start today or tomorrow, because that means don't wait until Monday, because our human brain is like, oh no, let's start Monday. Monday is a better day to start. And actually the best day to start, the best moment to start is now, because time flies when you're having fun during this life of ours. And we only have one, and our host will be back. So my major tips are, the baby steps approach to tips is writing down like 2 to 5 go-to snack and meal ideas, and start building your meal planning strategy with balanced meals and snacks. And then in a month or two, you'll have an awesome repertoire of recipes that you love. So instead of thinking that you need to sit down and like hash out your whole meal planning system and cook like 20 things and be overwhelmed and then quit and then forget yourself for a year or two, I recommend slowly but surely build your meal planning system in a sustainable, reasonable way that totally works for you. Like sometimes you'll cook like 2 pots of something at one time, or like put something in the oven and then put something in the Instant Pot or something like that. So if you're doing one recipe of something, you could double it because it doesn't take that much more time to make a little bit more. And I also created a special resource for all of the attendees here. And I believe you'll get that email maybe tomorrow. So check that out, and that will be a thorough go-to. And then when you look at that, don't get stressed out. It's just a guide.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. And Dr. McQueen, do you want to talk about some simple things? I mean, if people have been putting off their checkups because they've been afraid to go into the doctor, or what are some simple things they can do starting immediately to improve their health?
I'm gonna give you 2 quick tips, okay? So one is for your stress reduction. Everyone needs 15 minutes every day for themselves, every day. And it doesn't matter where it's at. Some people hide themselves in the closet, in the bathroom, dropping your kids off, sit in your car for 15 minutes, sit in your driveway for 15 minutes, take a walk around your house. Everyone needs 15 minutes of alone time for themselves to decompress, think, just live in the moment. Okay, do that. Start that today. Start that tonight. Second of all, sleep. Sleep is so important. Sleep is going to make the factor of your immune system. It's going to make a difference of your mind regenerating, your body cells regenerating. Everybody needs to sleep, and their body needs to repair. So average adult should be sleeping 7 to 8 hours a day. And school children, I believe this so wholeheartedly. School children need 10 to 12 hours of sleep. So put those kids to bed, dinner, 7:30, 8 o'clock, put those kids to bed. They wake up, 7:30, 8 o'clock to go to school. And then you actually will have your 15 minutes of time after they go. But you need your sleep to repair, decrease your cortisone or your stress hormone, let your body and mind repair.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Duba, what is a takeaway that you'd like for people to have that they can help improve their health?
I think Dr. McQueen and Alicia covered, the basics and the best. But what I'll just add is mindful eating and hydration. Eating whole foods, right? Eliminate most packaged foods. And always check the label on your foods. Like if you were to eat a packaged food, if you cannot pronounce it, most likely your body can't digest it well, or it's not useful for you. Try and find foods with the least amount of ingredients, and like I said, focus on whole foods. Your plate of food, it should always look like a rainbow, have different colors, the red, the purple, the yellow, the orange. That's going to give you all the phytonutrients, the micronutrients for healing your body. And that way it's unlikely for you to eat too much because you're eating raw whole food. You get easily satiated, you feel less cravings, and you're nourishing your body for health and wellness. And of course, drink a lot of water so you can detox. Your body absorbs a lot of toxins from your nose, your skin, and of course the things you eat. Drinking a lot of water helps your liver flush out toxins. And I think doing those things along what the rest of the panel has said will do a lot of great for your body. Uh, yeah, I'm done.
Yep. And then Dr. Kadu.
Very good. Yes, I'll take it from here while Carl reconnect with us. So I couldn't.
Carl, we went on and Dr. Kadu was talking.
Oh yeah, no, it's all right. The show must go on.
Okay, very good. And I echo all of the advices and all of the tips that you all have given, whether it relates to sleep, diet, starting now, picking up healthy habits, increasing your hydration and your diet. But in addition, I would say be an advocate for yourself and others and raise awareness. This is it's not only it's our responsibility towards ourselves and also our community. If you know a good tip, spread it, spread the good word, and share it with others, whether through reading, through a healthy conversation. Mindfulness is very is mindfulness and self care is very important, and do one, each one teach one. So help others also get to adapt and adopt good habits, and spread it to your community. Use platforms, different platforms to share what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and not only in your illness states, but also when you're healthy, when you're take up that responsibility to yourself to educate your community and contribute to the community. It reciprocates certainly in different forms, and besides that, you'll see that the results of that coming in, and also you'll see how the community how it impacts the community. It doesn't have to be tangible and immediate. Direct gratification or immediate gratification it's as much of a disease as prevalent as any other disease that we see and we encounter. But you'll see the effects of those small interventions on the community. Rather, you see the not the immediate but the delayed gratification of that, and the outcome, the impact on the whole community and on yourself.
Very good. And we are at our hour now. And it sounds, if I could synthesize what was said in the wrap up, is to make ourselves a priority, to take time in what we do, be very deliberate, and to just be kind to ourselves and not expect everything to happen overnight. And I want to take this time, speaking of time, to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us, being so generous with your time. We're very blessed that we had this level of expertise assembled in one spot. And we wish you all good health and in the coming year. And thank you for joining us. And I definitely want to recognize our sponsors. Thank you all so much. And I want to thank Alamo Ranch Counseling and Wellness, Life Point Church. We have HEB, 7 Dental, Baptist Emergency Hospital, SRI, Texas Med Clinic, Laurel Ridge, Southern Roots, Cute Smiles for Kids, and Sage. So thank all of you so much for your generosity. And we will close out with a video. Have a good evening.
Possibilities are all around us. Everywhere we look, we see opportunity in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world that we call home. Like transforming an old bus to feed hungry children, or providing life-saving equipment to those who need it most. From fighting disease to rebuilding schools, together we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved today at rotary.org/action.